Hey everyone, and happy Friday. This is the first subscription send out of October, so we're getting kind of into the mood here with a pumpkin, and we're going to show you how to design in this pumpkin using sustainable mechanics. So the first thing you're going to have to do is cut the pumpkin, and for everyone that's watching this right now on YouTube, you'll get to watch me struggle and hopefully not cut myself, but if you've done this before, you know the drill. You're just going to cut into the top. Now when you're doing a flower arrangement though, you kind of want to keep in mind that you want that line to rest a little bit lower on the pumpkin, so you can come back through afterwards and trim it down so that you're only seeing the amount of pumpkin that you want. Lid's off, save this for later if you want to use it as part of your design. And then we got to clean out the guts. Now we're using this cool heirloom pumpkin. It actually kind of smells like a melon, which is nice, or like a white pumpkin. So the flesh is actually pretty smooth, but it is a much thicker kind of skin or rind area than you would see in the normal orange pumpkin. So, because this is kind of a dense situation, we're just gonna use our knife to get around this whole area, get all of the seeds, out, there we go, and loosen it all up in there. It's all attached. There we go. Now, sometimes what you'll see, and we do it here too, is you can just take some like plastic wrap or a cellophane or something that's more or less watertight and line the interior of the pumpkin and then plop a piece of floral foam in there. And that works pretty well if you want to go out and buy some floral foam from your local florist. If you want to grab some from a craft store, you can do that. But if you're trying to minimize the single-use plastic situation in your life, then we are offering a couple of other ways to do it as well. Now, if you want to put like a trash bag or something you'd be able to use, again, if you have any leftover plastic bags or something from shopping to give a little bit of a additional lining, you certainly can do that, just repurposing what you have. Or you can just put another piece or a pot into your pumpkin as well. So the cleaner you get it, the better, because it's going to have a lot more space for your vessel. So what we like to do here is we just clean out the pumpkin and then we find a container that fits down in there nicely, and then we chicken wire and tape the container, and then that way you can fill it with water, and then you can just design directly into it like that. Okay, all right, so that's pretty good. I'll spare you all of the laborious cleaning, but suffice it to say, you should get it as clean as possible. Might take a little bit longer than this. Okay, save those pumpkin seeds if you want to roast them and eat them. All right, so what we have here is our nice empty pumpkin. She'll be a little bit cleaner, but you get the idea. So we have here is like a regular 4.5-inch flower pot. So this will be the first thing that we try. Fit it down in there. Perfect fit. It's almost like we knew. So this is what we're going to use for our vessel. So like I said, if you want to put a little bit of plastic or garbage bag or something in there first for a little more water tightness, go for it. But if you want to just pop this guy right down in there, you can do that as well. So we're going to take our chicken wire. Ooh, is there any water in our container? Sweet. Okay. Let's take our chicken wire, do the same thing that we always do, where we kind of roll it over and make like a little caterpillar, then go head to tail, fold it like a burrito, make a cute little ball, and then we're going to stuff it down in our pot like so. And again, for like a 4 or 5-inch pot, I usually use maybe a 6x6 piece of chicken wire. You can see right there. It's a lot of crisscrossing, which is excellent. And then we're going to take our tape. And if you don't have florist tape at home, you can probably just use masking tape or any kind of tape that you have. Florist tape is great because it is waterproof, so you can put it on your vessel and take it off pretty easily and not have to worry about pulling off on its own. So I'm going to tape a little mini grid onto it, just like tic-tac-toe. We're just gonna give us a couple more places to put our flowers, should we need to. A little bit more stability for our stems. Go around like so. And if you're not worried about having to deliver this thing or move it around, you don't really have to go around your pot a second time. If you are gonna be jostling it around or delivering it, then you might wanna just do a ring around the pot as well. So we're gonna place that right on in there. There we go, perfect. So you could also use just a plain glass vase and then just use a little barkeeper's friend or similar to get the little tape residue off after the fact so you can keep reusing it. But this is fine for here. It's gonna be whatever you have available. I'd actually brought in a little Tupperware container, this is always a good go-to. If you have some like round Tupperware containers or plastic containers that are reusable, you can try a couple of those sizes to figure out which one's gonna fit in your pumpkin. There we go. I'm just gonna fill that with water. And then because we have this sort of larger rind area going on, I'm just gonna take a little bit of moss. This is just regular sheet moss. You can buy this at, you know, home stores, Ace, Home Depot, craft stores, etc. I'm just gonna put that around the edge so that we don't see any of the interior of the pumpkin or the mechanics moving forward. Then we can get to the exciting part, which is what is in this week's bucket that we have to work with. So here we go, we're all set up, ready to roll. At this point you can put anything in here, but we're gonna start with this excellent pink hydrangea. It's actually more of kind of a purple color. There we go. And it's really big, and we're gonna put it in first. But first we're gonna separate the laterals and spread it out a little bit, because our goal is not to completely cover the hydrangea. We wanna be able to see the hydrangea through the flowers. It just happens to be massive. So it's gonna be a great base for our arrangement, but we don't want to totally cover it. So I'm gonna make the space in between these lateral blooms. I'm gonna give it a trim. So we're gonna want that stem to land in that bottom third of our vase. We're gonna trim any of these little knobs off, cut on an angle when you remember, and then I'll pop this guy right on in there between some of the openings in the chicken wire. And then tuck it all the way in. There we go. Actually, it's a little bit long. That my pop was a little lower. I'll trim that a little shorter. There we go. All right, sitting right on top. And then once again, kind of go back in there and spread out that hydrangea. This hydrangea is so big, it's almost like, it's like 5 little hydrangeas all together. So this is great. We're gonna go in between those laterals so that we still see this pretty color coming through. But we also use it to help support all other stems. So we can start with some Floral if you're into it. I like this because I think it goes really nicely with the color of pumpkin. So like this greenery is really nice. You can edit off any of these damaged leaves, just use the top pretty ones. And then you only really need maybe 3 or 4 leaves on the top. And again, you're gonna wanna trim these little knobs off just so it's nice and clean stem going into your vase. And we're gonna go right in between the laterals. So tuck that in and coming out. So not disturbing it in any way, going right in between. Then we are going to cut another one. Now, if you want a big arrangement, you can leave more of these leaves on. And if you do that, then you can bring it out a little bit further. I'm just kind of using these as a base to sort of start building more of a foundation for the rest of my blooms. So I'm just tucking them in a little bit. I'm gonna use some of these nicer, darker leaves to come out a little bit more and be more of the focus. And these can just be a little bit more of the foundation. So I'm gonna put a couple in. I'm not gonna do all of them because I'd like to hang on to some. I had a visitor outside the window. Had a visitor hang on to some to add in later. So I'm gonna do 3 of them. There should be 4 or 5 in the bucket. And if you can break them up a little bit, do so. Here we go. Perfect. So I'm seeing this green all the way around, which is nice. It's not too aggressive in the design, but it is creating a nice little base for us. And then I'm gonna go in some of these other greens. This is the 9 bark. Now, if you can get 2 placements out of it, go for it. I want to use it a little bit longer, so I'm just going to strip the leaves off the bottom and tuck it into my arrangement and use it as is. Oops. Again, you want to clean that stem and then tuck it in through your hydrangea into your water. Okay, we got 2 of these guys in here. And you might be saying, oh, it's odd to just have 2 of them, but we have, to balance them out, these really cool tropical greens that have a really kind of nice, spooky sort of edge to them that have that same color, so you can repeat it throughout the pumpkin. So I'm gonna take this in here. This is where you can get kind of creative.
Still in here?
So you can do a, there we go. This is nice and long like this, so it mimics the look of the 9 bark. Or if you wanted to do a loop and then pick it through, leaving that stem, then you can have some cool little loops that go into your arrangement. Or if you have a staple or 2, you can always like staple them down and make loops. That's always really pretty as well. If you want to make them extra pointy, you can fold them in half and staple them. It gives them a little bit more of a pointy feel. But I'm just going to go ahead and trim down this bottom a little bit and use it as a full stem, full leaf, and just go ahead and put that into the base to sort of balance out these guys over here. And you should have about 5 of these in your, or maybe 6, 5 of these. And again, if it's a little bit too long, just take a little bit off the bottom in an even cut, like so. So you keep your stem intact, and then you can go ahead and put that into your arrangement. Now stuff like this where it's very linear, it's always nice to have a little bit of repetition with it. So wherever you have one, maybe you have another one sitting a little bit higher, a little bit lower. Kind of think about like whiskers on a cat, where you've got this like layering coming off to one side instead of just being like boing, 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 all spread out. You want each of the leaves to kind of speak to another rather than living in the arrangement space by itself. So I'm gonna go ahead and tuck these 2 guys in together here. So I've got this off this way, these guys coming off this way. Got 2 more here. I'm gonna go ahead and continue doing what I was doing of sort of layering them in to the arrangement in these little groupings so that it keeps the color kind of moving all around. Actually pull this back over here, and then I'll go in between these guys with one on this side and one coming up out of the top a little bit. It's kind of nice thinking about them like whiskers on a kitten this time of year too. Trying to get all of the kind of spooky season vibes going on here as well. So like those, we'll go that way. All right, so now we have some nice layered tropical foliage coming through here, spreading that nice rich brown color throughout the arrangement. And then we're gonna get into some of our other flowers. We have one feather protea in the bucket today. Has like a lot of texture and it's really lovely. And the greens are really nice, so we're gonna leave as many on as we can while still having a clean stem going down into our vase or a pot, whatever we're using in our pumpkin. So I'm gonna leave all the ones on here around the bloom, and then I'm going to give it a trim. I know that this is gonna be kind of heavy because it's a very heavy bloom on top. So I'm gonna go more in the center of my arrangement because I know that it's gonna wanna tip to one of the sides eventually. So I want it to be sort of a focal piece. So I'm gonna tuck that in here. And I kind of build my design around this guy because he's sort of the star of the show. And then I have these other linear elements here. This really nice fuchsia stock. It's bringing in that fuchsia from the pumpkin. I'm sorry, from the hydrangea. Just take off any of these little bottom blooms. I'm gonna tuck this in here. Make sure all the greens are stripped off. Make sure your stems are nice and clean. And again, if we're kind of grouping our things together here, maybe I've got this guy as a nice focal element here, and I've got my double leaves this way. So maybe I wanna group some of these stock together so that it gives them a little bit more of a purposeful placement, and so that has a little more impact versus just using them all spread out in the arrangement where they're there, but the interest of their color and shape is somewhat diluted because they are spread all through the arrangement. So I put this guy here. I want this to come out in between them, but a little bit lower. So I'm gonna tuck that in like so. Reaching through the hydrangea, moving that lateral stem out of the way, and tucking my stock in here. So I got 2, 3, 2, 3. And then after that, we're gonna get our carnations in. Carnations are one of our favorites here. I know a lot of people have feelings about carnations, but these are the old school purple carnations. Before we had all the moon varieties, this is like what you got if you ordered a purple carnation. And you don't see them as much anymore because people have the moon varieties that are truer purple. But I mean, who can beat this color? It's just the richest, prettiest fuchsia color, and it goes perfectly with our whole palette that we're working with today. So it's a juicy fall palette. So again, with these guys, you just want to trim them on an angle and make sure you get these little knobby bits where the leaves come off. Make sure you're trimming those nice and flat to the stem, because that's something that'll grab that chicken wire and pull the whole arrangement apart. So you make sure you have a nice clean stem going into your arrangement. And with these, we can sort of nest them and shadow with them. So if you have one in tight, you could do one coming out from it a little bit. Again, kind of giving a little bit more impact to it so they're not all spread out through the arrangement. I'm gonna do one over on this side, and then I think I'm gonna tuck one underneath that one so that you get bam bam, that shadowed look with the carnation. You can get a little bit more concentration of that nice fuchsia color in one place in the arrangement. So again, and don't ever cut your your carnations like right on those little knobbies, because if you do that, they really don't drink water as well. I don't know why, but it is a fact. So make sure you're cutting it on the clean part of the stem in between. Next, we got a little bam bam shadowing action there. And then we got our spray roses, which are a really amazing color and go really well with this pumpkin, actually. We didn't even really do that on purpose. We just bought this pumpkin because it was the right size and was kind of cool looking, but this goes so well with it. And even like the foliage on the stem matched with like the green and the pumpkin. So that was a happy accident there. And again, with these guys, I've got two. I'm gonna concentrate them in one area. I'm sinking this guy into the middle. I'm gonna have another one coming out a little bit further so they can get that bam bam, that shadowing, and you're gonna get a little bit more visual texture in your arrangement and a little more concentration of color, which is nice. Now, if you're more traditional and you just wanna have them kind of all spread out all around, go for it. That is a great look also. But whenever we have something where you've got like one focal piece or a couple of evens and a couple of odds, I feel like it just makes a nicer presentation usually to group those blooms together, just so it looks a little bit more purposeful and not just like you're trying to spread everything out so it's not touching each other. All right, so we've got these guys in here, and next I'm moving on to my barista roses. So I'm gonna give them a blow. They have been, I don't know if it's just the grower or what, but they have been very pink this year, which has been kind of a problem for some of our palettes, but look really great when we're using these other nice fuchsia colors. So I'm gonna go ahead and tuck these guys in, and because they're sort of tight and not a juicy bloom, I'm just gonna have them come out of the arrangement a little bit as well. So I've got this guy coming out, those greens are super pretty, and then I'm gonna have this one back behind him. Again, doing that shadowing bit. So I've got two, one in, one out. And then I've got one to bring that color around to the back. So you see this kind of color palette going on here, and bring it to the back side of the arrangement where it's all super saturated coral colors. So chuck that in like so. As you turn your arrangement, you definitely want to pay attention to where you've sort of gone off from your spokes on a wheel look, where maybe something's gone in here but is going this way, or has gone in here and is going back this way. To keep it kind of clean and ordered, you want to make sure that all of your stems are sort of coming out evenly, like radially from the center. So if you've got ones that are going crisscrossy, just sort of, adjust and edit them back as you go. It's not like a complete necessity, but it helps when you're trying to move your blooms around or make any adjustments to your arrangement without, pulling the whole arrangement apart because you've got things that are leaning on each other in weird directions. All right, so these guys here and here and here. I want this to be up a little bit. All right, and we keep moving. This is kind of reminding me like bat wings now. I love it. Here, this guy kind of got out of sorts. Tuck that back in. All right, perfect. Now, oops, I missed this guy. How did I miss him? We had a third of this. Okay, so these, it's gonna go on the other side so we can see that coral all the way through our arrangement. So we've got that there. Then we're finally getting to our mums. So usually I'll order these things, all of the blooms, like kind of largest to smallest, because it's just a little easier to plan out the arrangement. But with mums, because they can be so fragile, I save it to the end. So in this case, we have these really cool autumn cremone mums. They're kind of, they're more of a football. They're kind of an in-betweeny. And they have all this great like yellow color and brown color. So we're gonna go ahead and use this in our arrangement. And because it's so large and we have all these competing shapes in the arrangement, we're gonna use them sticking out a little bit. Like I don't wanna mush them all the way in, or you're not gonna see any of this pretty layering of the petals on the side. So these guys are gonna live up and out of our arrangement a little bit. And now at this point, you got a lot of stems in there. So just poke around and be gentle, and you will find the water. If you're hitting a hard spot, just take your stem out, maybe move the hydrangea out of the way with your hand and feel around in there, and just make sure that maybe the moss hasn't gone in there or a leaf hasn't fallen in a way that's like making it really difficult to access the opening to your container. Okay. Alrighty, third one here. I'm gonna incorporate this one to the front side of this arrangement with my, my pincushion tortilla. So I've got 3 points going on here. And then we're gonna get some of these guys in. These are fall button pom-pom. So you can cut all of these into individual placements and tuck them in around your arrangement. So since we've had so many larger textures coming in and out, this is a great time to come in and use some of them a little bit deeper in the arrangement, just to get that color all the way through. And then we could repeat that shadowing where you have one in and then one a little bit further out, all throughout the arrangement, to really bring that color of the larger mum all the way through the arrangement as well. Since they're kind of focused into just those 3 placements, this is gonna bring that brown color all the way through your arrangement as well. And some of these longer laterals, you can use those to stick out a little bit. The shorter ones, you can tuck them in, and then you'll have lots of that color spread through. And you place this one, that's where I want it. And you should have 2 or 3 of these depending on how many stems or lateral stems are on one stem. And you can use some of these little ones too, they're nice for texture. But if your arrangement is getting a little bit too crowded, you can certainly not use them as well. I like to try to use as much off the stem as I possibly can, get as much bang for my buck. And plus with these guys having the little nub, like the little bud coming off the side, it really makes a cool, like more natural texture in the arrangement as well. But be very careful as we're working now. We don't want to hit the larger mums because it might break them. So be careful as you're pushing these down into the center of the arrangement that you're not hitting those mums because they will shatter and their petals will fall off. Okay, put this guy in here. And now it's kind of starting to make more of a all around look. Still a little bit of space over here that we can go in with. These larger ones, the tops of the arrangements are nice because you can just use them as one cluster and just go in and take lots of space with it. Again, with these, just like the large ones, you want to make sure those stems are super duper clean going into your arrangement, or they can pull your chicken wire ball out, which is not fun. Okay, and then we have all the pretty little glittery bits to go on top. So we've got our chocolate lace, we've got our ranunculus, and what I think, okay, next to the tortilla, the star of the show, are these awesome double blooming grape anemone, which are amazing. So start with these guys. So given kind of like a spider web kind of feel here. Chocolate lace has all these different blooms, you know, same as Queen Anne's lace. So just go into your stem and pull off any of the ones that have broken individually, and make sure you're pulling them off so that you're breaking that stem off all the way back to where they connect to the main stem, so that it doesn't look like the stems are all broken. And you can edit these back to be much smaller this way as well. If, for instance, you're worried that's going to cover something or just is too large to fit in your arrangement. So I've taken that back to a slightly smaller size now, cleaned some of the little broken pieces off, and we're ready to use it in the arrangement. So I'm going to give this a trim. And these guys, you know, all of these last flowers are like your boingy flowers. You want them to really kind of come out of your arrangement and be interesting, give a little bit of movement. You know, these guys are kind of a smoky kind of feel too, so you can layer them or you can have them all throughout. But the nice thing about their nice clean stem is that the stem also becomes part of the arrangement. So as you're placing it in the arrangement, you're going to get a little bit more space and a little bit more size out of your arrangement by using these longer. Yeah, nice clean stem going right on in. Just letting it hover, letting them float above the rest of the flowers. So I have 3 over here. And again, if you want to doing them a little bit more grouped, like let's say you put more of these together on one side, you could totally put a third one coming in and out this way, which actually I kind of love. Or if you're going a little bit more all around, you could have it sort of coming out this way also. So you have decisions to make with this. It doesn't have to be exactly the same as what I'm making, but wherever you have repetition, you can think about how to be purposeful with it. Like, do you want it to be spread out so that you're seeing it all the way through to reinforce that shape? Or do you want to use it all to one side because you have a clear focal point and you really want something to pull the eye off this way? So if I have these guys coming out this way, and maybe I want to take this and replace it so it's coming out as well. So you have all of these things coming off to the side this way, and we balance it with the tall and the long chocolate lace on this side. And then we have our ranunculus. We got 3 of these. These are just a salmon ranunculus with the colors like perfect. Again, didn't do it on purpose with the pumpkin, but it does kind of work perfectly. You can give it a little bit of blow if you want. Sometimes the petals on the back have a little bit of moisture or a little bit of bruising, so just take off whatever you need to get your bloom ready to go into your arrangement. You can leave these guys on. I think they're kind of fun. Or if you prefer, and this isn't going where you want it to go, you can edit these off and use those separately in your arrangement as well. So you have one placement here, two placements here. It's always good to try to include some of those buds because it keeps the arrangement looking kind of organic and natural. So I'm gonna tuck this guy in, and again, use the stem as part of your arrangement. Let it hover, and that gives your arrangement more space, it gives it more spread. Tuck this guy in, maybe on the other side. So it hovers, but maybe doesn't come out as far. And these guys, since they're kind of your wild children in the arrangement, they don't necessarily have to follow the rules. You can use their stems in different directions. You know, if it's going in this kind of shape and you want it to land in a certain place, use the natural shape of that stem to your advantage. And with ranunculus, again, because it's a lovely texture to look at straight on, but it's also a lovely texture to see from the side, nest a couple down in and then have a couple coming out longer so that you get to view it in a couple of different ways. Oops, I'm hitting a leaf. There we go. Okay. And then for these awesome anemone. Now, putting them in last, which is a little bit dangerous, these have pretty nice hard stems, but with chicken wire, if you go to put your anemone in and then you see that it's not getting in there, don't keep pushing because it's just gonna rip the stem straight up the middle. You do not want that. So you're just gonna tuck the stem in and maybe twist around a little bit, try to find a space where it's gonna fit, move it around, and when you find that space, which can take a minute, but I mean, that's okay. There we go. And there you go. Now, once it's in, and I don't want these guys touching each other, I want them each to have their own space, I'm gonna move this guy over a little bit so that he can live in this space and he can be over here. And actually maybe make this one a little bit shorter as we edit through so that this one isn't touching the mom either. Everyone has their own space to be in the arrangement. Okay, and then we have another one of these guys here. These guys can also like wing out pretty far if you want, or they can get tucked in. The shape of the stem is like part of the coolest thing. So you definitely, if you appreciate that kind of weird organic shape, you wanna try to incorporate that into the arrangement. So try to get it so that those stems can be part of the design and try to get it in. Again, you can get a finger under there if you need to and find a spot to get through all of the other stuff into your, there we go, right there. And we're all good. There's that. And then we have another one coming out over here. So I want to see this color all the way around because this is kind of a unique color in the arrangement. A lot of the other ones sort of like spoke to each other, so they were repeating each other just by placing them in different areas, even if it wasn't the same stem. But since this one is quite different, I want to make sure that I see it in several places in my arrangement. All right, so then it's just editing time. So I'm going to go ahead and move my tortilla back slightly and move these guys, tuck these in a little, and then get my leaves coming out. And now you should have some leftover Floral, so you can certainly use those at this point if you feel like you need another place. As I was working over here, it feels like there needs to be something tucked in, so I'm gonna add a piece of Floral over here just to give a little bit of like greenery and a little bit of weight. Any other places where you see some like holes in between that you might want something, you can come back in with the Floral just to make a little bit of a fill. Again, just sort of tucking it in so that it's not a main player, but so that it is visible in the arrangement and providing a nice background for the other ones. Okay, I'm gonna go back and do my little loopy guy that I showed earlier just because I think it's kind of fun. Okay. And then here we go. Any little extra bits you got, you can add those in at this point or just keep them for another vase in your house. That would work also. And then we are good to go. Now, if you want to do something with this guy, it's a little bit tough because he's very heavy, but you could put a dowel in it to like stick it into the arrangement or clean it up really nice and just use it as part of a tablescape nested with your pumpkin, possibly with a little bit of moss, etc., just to sort of make a grouping with it. Then not have to have this going in there and crushing any of the flowers or possibly covering any of the flowers. But here we go for this week. something a little different, something a little fun. Let us know, I guess, in the comments as well, if you want to see something different types of fall arrangements, kind of like spooky color schemes. We're trying to find all of the really interesting color schemes this fall, not your traditional. So this one airs a little bit on the juicier side, which we love. So certainly, like, drop some lines in the comments for things that you want to see, and then meet us back here next Friday for another DIY bucket.